Andrew Mack here from MMA Island. Today I'm with Trevor, the Scarecrow Gudde, who's fighting for the Cage Titans Welterweight Championship, August 27th, this Saturday. Trevor, how you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Weight cut's going great. Fight camp was awesome. Yeah, I'm ready.
So, how's this camp been? You're going for a title. This is a big fight. Have you done anything different in camp than normal?
Yeah, I mean, I increased my road work like I never had before. I don't think in my entire life I've run as much as I have the last like month and a half. Actually, I'm positive I haven't. And just the general training level from the coaches has been, through the roof. So they're putting me through the ringer. I feel ready. I felt ready for my last one, but this is a whole new level. Yeah, knowing that it's 5 rounds and stuff like that was a little bit. It just changed the way we train a little bit. A lot more marathon like instead of sprint.
So, speaking of your last fight, you got Justin Barrel, who's Joe Giannelli's coach, in a Dead Orchard armbar, the first I've ever heard of it.
Yeah.
So, do you think the fact that you were able to beat his coach gives you any more confidence towards Joe, or is that just a completely separate fight to you?
It was separate, but he did seem to take it kind of personally that I did. So now I'm a little bit intrigued. Is he actually his coach? I thought he was just a training partner. Either way, the the ground is mine. Like I've felt that way since I was an amateur. I'm in. Like I have put in so much work down there to get to the level where I can do exciting submissions. When I was in my amateur days, it was all about experimenting and finding out what works and what doesn't work. Now as a pro, it's point A to point B as fast as possible in a way that people will think is cool. So like getting the dead orchard, that wasn't even on my list of like dream moves, but it should have been. Right after I hit it, I had that moment of like, oh damn, that was pretty cool.
So I believe Tapology lists Justin Barrel as Joe's coach, and Joe has referenced him as his coach.
Cool, right on. Well, I know Joe trains different places as
Yep.
well, but I like I said, the ground game we've been working with, that was my main focus. I wrestled in high school. I went straight from that to jujitsu, both gi and no gi. I consider myself a high level brown belt in competition level. So I if it goes to the ground, I have some things I want to try.
I heard that you told Massey you want to try to get a twister on him.
Oh, I've always wanted a twister. Yes, no, twister is my number one favorite submission. That is always been the goal on the ground. Yeah.
Well, I talked to him this morning. He said that if you get him in the twister, he'll retire on the spot.
Deal, right on.
And on why he took you being his coach so personally. So he says that he needs to fight emotional or else he just sucks. Is what gives him the drive and the power to just fight like he does.
Yeah, that's funny to me. I think I'm just good, so I don't I don't have to call them. In my experience and the people that I've trained with and talked to, being emotional in a fight isn't terribly helpful. Being emotional in a chess match isn't going to get you far. Being emotional in a brawl will possibly help, but brawls are just a coin flip anyway. So I thought that comment was interesting. Yeah, if he needs to take something personally, I get it. Some people have to have that. It's one of those where it's like I respect him, but I plan on winning. As soon as the fight's over, I have nothing but respect for Joe, I suppose. But until then, it's a fight.
So what's your mentality? You're a very like chill guy. When you start ramping up the intensity, you're like, come on, let's go.
I get very impatient fight day. That kind of seems to be the feeling that starts to take over as I'm about to walk in. And now that I'm the main event, I'm sure it's going to be way worse because we're going to be up there forever before I get to walk in and fight. But the impatience of having gone through what I've gone through for this and still not being done yet. Yeah, there's a deserved feeling. It's like I've worked hard enough for this that I deserve the outcome. And when it comes to fight time, that's kind of the fire that boils up. It's like I worked for this and now it's mine.
So I know you originally wanted to fight Billy Goff, but then he went to Contender Series, and then you went after Giannelli. Does that is that point when Goff came unavailable when you wanted to fight Giannelli, or did you want to fight him earlier?
Honestly, I never thought of fighting Giannetti. They offered me a last minute fight with him, because his opponent fell out. Unfortunately, I was in Missouri running or trying to put together a camp that I do out there for foster kids and stuff. So I wasn't able to take that one, but as soon as it was offered to me, I loved the idea of fighting him. I think he was at one of the first Cage Titans cards I ever saw. And it's a fun fight. The fans are gonna like it. It doesn't frighten me. I know he hasn't made 55 in a minute, but I still think I'm gonna be bigger than him. When we get in there, and my ground game's good, my striking's good. We've incorporated Rajasi Muay Thai into the Citadel striking game, and the training partners I have are better than they've ever been. So I don't have many worries going into it. It's like I know it's still a fight, anything can happen, but I've had so many fights now that fear is more of just a part of the game. Like it doesn't stick out to me as much as it did anymore. It's just like, hey, whatever happens, happens. But I'm very good at this, and I put in a ton of work for it, so I feel good.
So of course Joe's last fight was a last minute replacement, and you have something to say. If I pull it up here, you said that you looks like he needs to fight someone who's not a fucking joke on the ground. So could you elaborate on that? What did you think of that fight?
Oh, I I realized afterwards that he made it look about as easy as I made my fight look. And that's what happens when high level people are in there against not as high level people. But if Giannetti's the champ and fighting people like that, I don't like that as much. On the local scene, if you're gonna stay here forever for Cage Titans, that's awesome. I guess you can fight cans forever, and the crowd will love it. But I think MMA needs to progress to the point where people are taking risks in fights. I don't think losses should be as career ending as they are, because it's discouraging people from taking dangerous fights, entertaining fights. And this is an entertaining fight. So like, yeah, the moment I heard about it, I wanted to do it.
So of course this won't be your first fight. I see that belt in the background, your amateur title, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, this is my little. I got Bellator stuff in there and a couple of Fight of the Night awards from my amateur days. Yeah, I
Nice.
don't actually own. We don't own China, so having a China cabinet at the house felt silly to. And so it's full of fight stuff. Yeah.
So this of course isn't your first title, but a pro title means much more than an amateur title. What does it mean to you to fight for this title?
Oh, it's huge. It's another shortcut in my career. It feels similar to like the Bellator shot that I had, where I wasn't really looking for this, and it just kind of popped up and fell in my lap. And now that I put the work in and I can get the win, it will progress my career significantly. I can start looking for bigger fights with Cage Titans. I can look at Bellator. I can look at one championship. We can talk about contender series and stuff like that. I want to use MMA not only as a means, to like survive and have a family and live by and stuff like that, but also to see the world and have adventures and stuff like that. So I love Cage Titans, but as soon as I can, if I can go to Singapore and fight, that'd be amazing. I wanna ride this the most fun way possible.
So speaking of which, wondering on your goals. Besides, of course, winning this title, what's a goal you have for short term? Let's say 3 years, and then a long term goal, 10, 15 years.
Okay. 3 years, I hope to have a bigger belt, the next level belt, and then 10 years, I hope to be happily retired with a lot of money from this, and I get to travel around and coach or commentate or something easy like that. I feel like I'm one of the more intelligent fighters, and I like analyzing the sport and breaking it down and stuff like that. So I have thought about, either high level coaching or some analytical side of the game, post this career. But I also like doing private lessons with rich people and stuff like that. That's not a bad way to live either.
Absolutely. So, the amateur Cage Titans welterweight champion Condon is going pro. What do you think of him?
Oh yeah, he's fun. I It's interesting. Whenever I see that, I always think, how would I have fought him back when I was an amateur? And I don't see a lot of high level ground game in transition anymore in the amateurs. It's turned very striking, which is fine. It's part of the game. Everything's circular in this sport, so it's going to go striking into grappling, into striking, into grappling. You know, we're going to have Khabibs that come in and beat all the strikers. We're going to have Adesanyas that come in and beat all of them. But we are in kind of a heavy striking mode right now. So I'm curious to see how he's going to deal with adversity. I didn't go pro until I had a few fights that really pushed me, that I couldn't find the finish, that I had to find a way to, survive and steal a win. And I haven't seen that from him yet. And that's not his fault that he hasn't gotten pushed that hard. But I would hesitate. He's young. If I were him, I'd take a couple more fights, take a really hard one, go challenge another champ from another organization, and then go pro. But I don't know. I like him. I think he looks like he works hard and stuff like that. He beat my teammate Bobby. He's one of my best friends. But it was he earned it. He won. So I like him. Yeah.
So watching some of your other interviews, you always talk about your parents and your family. I'm gonna take that you're a very strong family man, a lot of family values.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose so.
So
I like.
can you talk about how they've supported your career and all that stuff?
Yeah. My dad and my siblings especially have been wildly supportive. My dad was it's definitely the reason I got into MMA. Him and I used to watch the old WEC fights back in the day when they were free on television. Miguel Torres and Uriah Faber back in the day, Josie Aldo. And then UFC's cost pay-per-view when we were super poor, so we didn't watch any of that. But watching those was a huge bonding experience. And then kind of getting to this point in my life where I'm like, all right, well, I have one great adventure opportunity. What would I do with it if I could do anything in the world? And it's like, I think I want to be a fighter. I think that's what I've thought about in the back of my head since I was a kid. So he's been huge. He's been great. And then my siblings, Rachel and Jordan, are both younger than me. My sister's getting married the weekend, not the weekend immediately after the fight, but the one after that. So I have to make sure I don't
Nice.
get marked up. They've been great. They just loved the whole thing. My mom actually hated it for a long time. She still doesn't love it. She's a little bit of a germaphobe on top of not wanting to watch her son get punched in the face, and I
Hmm.
understand all of it. But in the last couple of years, she's kind of turned around. We can now talk about it. I showed her a couple of my fights when I was back there for the 4th of July,
Hmm.
which was she kind of watched it like through eyes. But I have like 3 or 4 fights now where I didn't take a single punch, and I just gotta need quick submission. So I showed her a couple of those, and those were okay. It was all right. But yeah, they've been great. It's funny, they're all back in Missouri, so at the beginning it was a lot more of a drive to deal with the homesickness and deal with being away from KC back when I missed it a bunch. Now my life is very much up here, and they've gotten to come up here and do the Boston thing. They came up here for the wedding and everything, so it's leveled out. But they're great. Yeah, I wouldn't be a fighter without them.
So how'd you come to Massachusetts from Missouri?
Um, it's a long story, but myself and Haley, who is now my wife, we were just dating at the time, moved up here because Haley's sister lived up here, and we were looking for a reason to get out of Kansas City. And we got a call from her one day where I swear she was talking to Haley on the phone, and Haley looked over at me all of a sudden. And I was like, "Whatever it is, we're doing it. Let's do it. Let's do it." She was like, "All right, we're moving to Boston." We came up here just to kind of visit and check things out. And within like the first few hours we were here, we were talking to a girl at the Boston Commons who introduced me to her boss of the food truck she worked at, who offered me a job. That same day, the apartment above Haley's sister opened up, and Haley got a job offer. And it was one of those where it's like, oh, well, we're doing it. Yeah, let's do it. So we drove from Missouri to here and back. I think it took 3 or 4 trips, one of them with 2 cats in the car, 20 hours. That was a nightmare. But yeah, we came up here with the mindset of like, look, we're gonna live our dreams. Like Haley's gonna dance, contemporary ballet, modern, etc. I'm going to do MMA, and if we make it, we make it. And if we don't, we move back to Missouri, and I don't know, I become a teacher and something normal and boring like that. But that was 2013, and I started training in 2014, and it's obviously been working. All of a sudden I'm the main event. I've got a freaking beer with my face on it. That's fucking wild. So yeah, no, it's we committed and it worked.
So how often do you go back to Missouri? I know you have that camp for less fortunate kids.
Yeah, I basically go back twice a year. I go back for camp and I go back for Christmas. If the, oh, and, we try to have camp around 4th of July because 4th of July is like a religious holiday in Missouri, and I have to go blow things up and drink with my family. Um, but those are basically the two trips back every year. This year is a little different. The last couple, one, they all came up here for the wedding last October, and now my sister's getting married, so myself, Haley, her sister, all going back to Missouri to visit them. It's 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 good. I don't miss it as much as I used to. I love Missouri and I still think it's a great place, but I'm not ready for it yet. It's still very slow. And then you got like Don Shamus lives out there in my hometown, the place I went to grade school, and trains at one of the better gyms in North America at Glory. No, what's it called? Maybe it's called Glory. James Krause's gym over there in Lee Summit, Missouri. They got a
Hmm.
bunch of UFC fighters. So I don't know. I'm glad I'm up here. I like Boston.
We're glad to have you. So I'm just gonna go down like a list of favorites. If you want to elaborate, you can elaborate. If you just want to list a favorite and move on, you can just go on. Okay.
Got it.
The fight on this card that you're most excited for besides your own.
Oh, I'm excited for Joffre's fight. Joffre's a monster. And if he can use what he's been doing in training in the cage, it's going to be crazy exciting. So I'm stoked for that. Yeah.
Your favorite big league fighter.
Big league fighter. So growing up, it was Miguel Torres. And then it kind of became the Diaz brothers. Now I'm a fan of Adesanya. Um, but I don't know. I respect the shit out of the guys that work hard, and like Donald Cerrone forever, is one of my favorites. But current favorite I'd probably have to say is Israel. Yeah.
Solid. Your favorite regional fighter besides yourself.
Regional fighter besides myself. Right now I'll give it to Billy Goff. You know what? Yeah, I was really excited to fight him. And I'm nothing but happy for him that we don't have to fight, but his career has been really fun to watch. And I respect Dexter's MMA a lot. I fought Austin Shala from their gym a couple of times. And they were both hard fights. I like those guys.
Your favorite one of your fights.
My favorite fight. I liked the Neil Von Flatern fight. My last amateur fight was really fun. It was just a cool submission, and it was really enjoyable to do. The Gracie fight in Bellator, though, would probably be my favorite. Just the whole experience, being quarantined at the Mohegan Sun with all the Bellator people for a week before the fight, and yeah, that was just wild from beginning to end. So that was the most fun.
And your favorite fight that's not yours.
My favorite fight that's not mine. Okay, so Jones Gustafson won.
Ooh, solid.
Yeah, was amazing. I also really enjoyed both of the McGregor Diaz fights. Those are both up there on my list. I'd say those are top three in any order. Yeah.
Oh, random thing I just remembered. I just saw that Dan White gave Bill Belichick a UFC belt. How many NFL coaches do you think Bill Belichick could beat in the cage?
Oh God. Oh, that'd be fun to watch. Okay, at least a couple. He's a mean looking dude. Yeah. Andy Reid, I'm a Chiefs fan, but man, I don't know if that guy could stand up very long. Like he looks exhausted already.
All right, last question to finish it off. What would your message to be to yourself from 2019, right when you went pro?
um, Believe in your striking, believe in your training. It's easy to go through the diet and the miserable parts of the camp and forget about all the hard work you put in before. And that kind of was detrimental to me in the cage for the first few. I got in my own head a little bit. And realizing that I have worked harder than everybody else and that like my coaches are putting in the time and effort too, that, statistically I'm going to win. from this work. If you look at it mathematically, like my brain analyzes everything. So yeah, believe in your training, have confidence because it works, and it's good.
All right. The floor is yours if you want to thank anyone or shout out sponsors, shout out socials, whatever you want.
Totally. As always, Hippie Christopher Brennick, Green Street Massage, has been my first and only forever sponsor. Chris believed in me well before I was anything to talk about. It was like my first or second amateur fight. He just all of a sudden said that his massage company wants to sponsor me because he thinks I'm going to go places. And now he was the best man at my wedding, and we have
Nice.
gone places. Yeah, we're homies. But he takes care of my strength conditioning as well as PT work and body repair. I went and got a massage from him today. It's like an hour and a half of just him tearing my body apart to make it all heal back in the right place. It's a Green Street Massage. If you're a fighter and you want to be better, it's like I haven't had an injury I've had to worry about on actual fight day in so long because of these guys. It changes everything. All those nagging little things that stack up during camp go away if you have a professional massage therapist. So check out Green Street Massage if you're a fighter. Other than that, just my wife Haley Day has been making all of this possible for years now. So I can't thank her enough. And my coaches, yeah, Zavi and Eric, they're the best. All my teammates and everything. We've done the work. I'm ready.
All right. It was awesome talking to you. Thank you for your time, Trevor.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'll see you at the press conference tomorrow.
Absolutely.